Okay, welcome everybody back to Steve Talks Boxing X, STBX, where we talk real boxing with the real boxing fans. On this week's show, we are talking about this weekend's WBC and Ring Magazine super flyweight clash in Juan Francisco Estrada against Jesse Bam Rodriguez. Also going to be talking a bit about the undercard fight as well, Sonny Edwards versus Adrian Curiel. And joining me this week is Amit. He's back on the show again. Thanks, Amit, for coming on.
Cheers, Steve. Always a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for coming on. Explain maybe to the people at home or watching this video, they may not have heard of these fighters. What's so special about this fight, Amit?
It's a good one, Steve. I think the little guys, as much as, what do you want to call them, but, the flyweight, super flyweights, they generally don't get the credit because you don't tend to see the big sort of KOs and the big sort of finishes, right? But what you're going to get is at times technical brilliance, competitive action, and all heart, and I think that if you look at the era of, to put Estrada into context, this is a living legend in boxing. This is a guy who's definitely going to be probably, future Hall of Famer, fought the best of his era. It's an era that actually was very, very strong. They kind of call it the sort of the four kings of the flyweights with Chocolatito and Rung Versailles and Quadras, and and these guys have all kind of fought. So, you're talking about someone who is very well renowned in the sport amongst boxing fans, but he's technically great, but also look, he's got heart, and he's someone who obviously goes the full mile. And then you've got someone like Bam Rodriguez, who's coming and blowing everyone out of the water, very rare sort of knockout almost specialist, and young, so young still, but someone's risen right to the top, had some great performances. So this is it's funny, I had Barry Jones talking about it. He's like, this is fight of the year territory here. This is kind of the level that it's at, and I think it's great to be on here talking about this particular fight and giving these guys some great exposure.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe a lot of the casuals, may not have heard of these fighters, but if I can sell the fight, if you can sell the fight, obviously please tune in and find out, and hopefully, the you guys out there will enjoy the like I said, the little guys. What type of fight can, well, I was going to say, the fans expect to see? What, if he's going to sell it to these new people who's not really heard of these guys before?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one in the sense that you've got someone who's very experienced and has kind of been there, seen it towards the latter of his career, and then you've got some, and that's Estrada, but then you've got Bam Rodriguez, who has risen to top very, very quickly and has been spectacular. But it's one of these cases, it's a bit of a crossover in time sort of fight, is what I'd class it as, Steve. So I think it could be very technical. It could be a blast out. I think it's one of these ones where actually it's quite in the air. I think a lot of people naturally are going to side with, Bam because he's young and he's explosive and he's absolutely launched on the scene. But you can't discount Estrada's experience. I think for anyone watching, it's an intriguing fight. It's one that it's not beyond the purist. I think it's going to be very entertaining, but it's definitely a purist fight as well, because you're going to see some great technical ability in that ring. Sure.
I was going to say, can you believe Bam is still only 24 years old? Is he like the Luke Littler of boxing?
Yeah, he's probably on that sort of comparison, isn't he? Now, he has been absolutely unbelievable. What a rise. And I know he's kind of fluctuating between flyweight, super fly, but, this is a guy who already is kind of knocking on the door of greatness, isn't it? Now, how much more is he going to win? 24. When's he going to fight until? So it's all about his motivation, isn't it? At the moment, he is just wanting the biggest fights. He wants the best fights. He wants to fight the best. You saw that in his last fight, against Sonny Edwards. We're going to come to Sonny a bit later, but he's not afraid to take on anybody. But 24. Wow, what an incredible career already.
So far, I know it's pretty amazing. You forget his age sometimes, I think, and what is achieved at that age as well. Estrada, obviously Mexican 2-weight champion. What can we expect from him? Obviously, he's Mexican, so tough, technical.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like you say, look, Mexican are a particular breed in boxing, right? They're very special. Like he's hard, he's strong, he's ferocious, but he's got technical ability. You've seen it in some of his, obviously fights in the past against Chocolatito, against, Rung Masai and others. He has shown technical ability in that ring. And I think with Estrada, you're going to see someone with the movement. You're going to see someone who has got a range of shots, which I'm sure Bam's not seen before. And I'd even put that in the same category as Sonny. Edwards, you've got someone who's got experience in the bag. He is won a lot. He's fought the best of his era. We're talking about future Hall of Famer here. Let's enjoy him. Let's enjoy this guy fight.
Absolutely. Estrada, you mentioned there, more experienced fighter, 44 fights compared to Bam's 19. So how's that experience going to come into play?
It's big, isn't it, Steve? I think it's all about timing. Obviously, I think Estrada's he knows all the tricks. He's fought big punches. Has he fought some of the power of Bam? Not too sure, because Bam seems to be very special with that explosive sort of power. So I think his ring, sort of ringship, his knowledge of working around his technical ability is going to be a massive factor in this fight. That sort of experience. All comes down to, of course, what he has left. He's not fought for a while. Yeah. And although his best friends weren't that long ago, he's had a lot of tough fights in the ring. So I think it's definitely a factor, but Bam has also experienced big world title fights. He's won big fights. They've got two common opponents, in the top end in Quadras and Rung Masai. So it's not like he hasn't fought quality fighters. He has, but I think Estrada, you could arguably say, is the best of them all. So on that basis, that his experience and overall sort of knowledge of who he's fought in the different styles, I think it's going to be a factor.
Yeah, sure. A lot of people are classing this as a young versus the old fighter. So I thought that was a bit harsh, really. But a lot of people are saying, look, it's the young versus the old. What do you make of that?
Right. I guess in age, not so much. I guess they're looking at this as how many more years has Estrada got left. I think that's probably the bigger call. But look, fights are fighting on longer now, but I can see why they're making that comparison to a degree. He's got more than double the fights of Bam. But Mexican fighters fight very early in their career as well. So look at what Canelo had on his by the 16, he had some ridiculous amount of fights. So I think the way you fight and the way you're brought through the amateur scene and you turn pro very quickly, I think that's a factor. So I think it's a little harsh. I think it's actually more about how many tough fights Estrada had at this, at this stage of his career. He's had a lot of big fights and naturally going to have some wear and tear on you. So I think it's probably a little bit on experience versus that youth, which I think actually makes this fight even more intriguing. Because
you could label it as youth versus experience, couldn't you? Really,
probably better than old versus young.
Yeah, as an extra tagline to it. I'm sure they must have thought about it anyway. So, but again, you're saying it's another intriguing aspect to the fight. So it's another thing to take in consideration. A lot of people saying Estrada has a better ring IQ as well. Would you agree with that? I've seen a lot online saying, he's technically better. He's got the savvy there, the ring IQ to better than Bam. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's hard to argue against it, Steve. I think if you look at his best performances, what he's done against Chocolatito and absolute quality fighters, he's not been stopped. It's one of these things where he, clearly he is someone who has got that ring IQ. He knows how to survive in tough moments, and he's got so many variation of shots. He's got the ability to make things very, very difficult. I think with Bam, because it's still quite early on, he's had some explosive wins. He's fought really good opponents, but that comes with time as well. And naturally, Bam being 24 and 19 fights in, you've got to say that Estrada's got the better IQ in the ring, and you're trying to balance that with the youth and the in the ferocious sort of punching power of Bam. That's the way you got to equalize it out.
Mm-hmm. Would this be Estrada's biggest win if he gets this win against Bam?
It's a tough, isn't it? Because I guess he's beating almost like the next generation. In that sense, I mean, walking away from that basically, you've kind of you fought the best of your era. You fought your biggest competitors. You know, in one way or another, you've beaten them all. And I know he obviously knows he's got some losses as well. You know, it's kind of four kings sort of element, and then he's kind of now crossed into this next year where you got like the likes of Bam Rodriguez coming through and beating everyone, and so I mean it would be an incredible win. I'm not sure whether it would be his biggest win because I think the Chocolatito fights were particularly they were like humongous from that weight, but I think it's right up there, and I think this would be a very special win. Let's put it that way, because he's probably the most he's been under odds, right? Let's face it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it could be a big statement win, isn't it? Maybe a lot of people may have written him off maybe this late in his career, maybe one final swan song or something like that. So to still play in. Do you think the inactivity of Estrada will play a factor in the fight? Because he last fought Roman Gonzalez even back in December 22. So he's been out of the ring for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, and when you're out of the ring, look, you're going to be eating better. You're not going to be. I mean, look, I'm sure he's obviously look what he's in his career. He's clearly a professional. He clearly looks after himself. He's not one of these people I think that's been out of shape in between fights, but towards the end, what is nearly 18-ish odd, nearly odd months. You know, it's quite a long time. I think that it's not about ring rust. I think this is about there's only so much sparring you can do and prep you can do if you've had a massive gut. But I also think that for someone who's been in the fights he has, it may take him a round or two, but he'll be, he'll get his movement back pretty quickly. That's what experience comes in. So I don't think it's as much a factor. I mean, this is probably just about there comes a tipping point in a fighter's career. Is it more that as opposed to inactivity? Because it's not been 2 to 3 years, So I think it will have a bearing, but it won't be a deep bearing in the fight.
It won't be a deep bearing. Looking at Bam, he's coming on the back end of this fight with that superb win over Sonny Edwards. Was you expecting that kind of victory from Bam over Edwards?
No, no, not to that level.
That's enough.
I don't think many did. I kind of thought that he may get to him. I also look, Sonny is a technically slick fighter. He's got skills, his defenses. He's got the shoulder roll, all that sort of stuff. So for Bam to take him apart the way he did, I didn't expect that. And it just showed what a special talent he is, because Sonny Edwards is a technical, absolutely, a master of his craft in that sense. But when he got caught, he felt every punch. And he said that after the fight, right? And Sonny's really honest about it. Ultimately, Bam just had too much. And when he got caught, he just couldn't believe what and obviously I think it was concussed and other things. I think his ear, he had a problem with his ear and all sorts. But no, not to that level. I was really thinking it'd go into the latter end and points possibly for Sonny, as kind of the conclusions, but nothing like that.
Yeah, but that took me by surprise as well. And the state of Sonny's face after the fight, you're thinking, wow. Yeah. Not taking anything away from Sonny Edwards. Obviously, he done his best what he could, but I wasn't expecting Bam to take him apart the way he did anyway. So that was a surprise for me. Some people say we're going. I know we spoke about this a little bit earlier. Lightweight divisions. This one's obviously the lighter weight divisions. The super flyweights are sometimes boring. You get that tagline with it. What would you say to that, Emmett?
Go back and watch those 4 great fights and tell me whether it's boring, because it
boring.
it's not what you class as boring. These are like ferocious, technical, amazing fights, all quite different in their own way. There was some almost wars. There was some technical, amazing excellence in boxing. The thing is, it's been around for years, Steve. Look at Ricardo Lopez, retired and defeated. Again, he was a lower weight, never got the appreciation. He's in the era of like the likes of Roy Jones and so forth. Unfortunately, guys just don't get that appreciation. And, and then Lopez is a master of his craft. So it's one of these things where give it a shot, and with this one, look, it's on the zone. It's, it's not, thankfully it's not pay-per-view this time. Just to put that in there. So, and, get Sunday, get a rerun on, and or, watch your live rerun, and, see for yourself. This, I think definitely give it a shot. There's some really, 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 they're all competitive fights. That's way.
Yeah, and I must go back and reiterate what you said. If you ain't aware, so you do think these fights are boring, go on YouTube. Go, take a look at some of them, then message me and tell me if you think these guys are boring. So, please do that. So, could Bam already be a potential Hall of Famer? I know we touched on maybe, obviously, Estrada's probably nearly there with it, and come to think of it, pound for pound fighter, if he gets this win, come Saturday.
He's doing thereabouts on the pound side. Pound's always an interesting debate, isn't it, Steve? It's it's really to your own taste, and it's very mythical. But if you look at his size and his power, look, Inoue's right up there, right? He's obviously even one number 2 to Bud Crawford. In my view, he's number 2 to Bud Crawford just because Crawford beat Spence. And I thought that was the most effective fight. So if you look at Bam at his size and what he's doing, of course, he's got to beat more top-level fighters, but Bam probably could go up in weight. But that's when you start thinking he's going to lose his power. He's going to lose some of the strength that's making him so devastating at low weight. So pound for pound, absolutely is on the cusp, if not kind of there at the, sort of like the bottom end of that top 10. I think Hall of Fame, time will tell. If he continues what he's doing, why wouldn't he be? He is... Look at this fight. If he does a number on Estrada pretty quickly or in a devastating fashion, it makes a massive statement. Bearing in mind that Estrada is pretty much set that he's going to be joining that illustrious list of iconic and legendary fighters in the Hall of Fame. So he's well on his way. He's
well on his way for his age. I was going to say Estrada must be pretty much there, isn't he, as a Hall of Famer anyway? I think so, and. Obviously, if you beat a Hall of Famer, while they're active, that's the good
criteria, right? So you definitely should be top of the list. You're beating a Hall of Famer to get in there. Let's face it, especially if you beat a lot of other champions, and you've kind of got to number 1, a ring champion, all the rest of yourself, of course. So
yeah, sure. Tactic wise, Bam's a southpaw, Estrada unorthodox. Would this make much difference in the fight? Do you think?
It's an interest, isn't it? Because sometimes it get messy when you have southpaw versus orthodox. I think with the styles, with the awkwardness of what Bam had with Sonny kind of flipping, I mean he's a switch sort of fighter. You don't really know what you're going to get. So I think for Bam, he's kind of prepared for anything that's going to come at him. I think Estrada's experience. I think he'll know the way the southpaw stance is. He'll be able to use those typical sort of tricks that you're going to do against southpaw, stay on the outside foot and and ultimately kind of land that left when you can. And so it'll be a factor, but I think what we're going to see actually is I think at times a really technical fight. I think Bam's going to realize that this is a different competitor. It could be for me it's his toughest fight. When you think about the experience. I think the level of, like we've said, the IQ, the technical ability of Estrada, even to Sonny, because Sonny's kind of more awkward. I think the technical ability of Estrada is one level up with his experience. So I think the stances will be a factor, but I think it's more the technical side that's going to be really interesting in this fight.
Going to see into play. Who would you like the winner to face next?
Well, it's one of these things that depends on what Bam wants to do, because they've all got to fight each other at that weight unless it's going to go up. So I guess it depends on this fight comes out. It could be an easy rematch to be made if it's really competitive, and I'm sure Estrada's not going to want to turn down another big, let's face it, a pretty big payday at that weight against someone like Bam Rodriguez. I'm sure Sonny wants his rematch with Bam, and if he does a good job on the undercard, then that could be another factor. So Chocolatito's still kind of around, isn't he? So I think that there's fights there. I think for Bam, it's just trying that way. You've just got to go for the biggest fights. So I think whatever's available. But the timing will tell of how much Bam wants to, whether he just wants to go to super flyweight and stay there, whether he's going to come up and down is another factor as well.
Yeah, in between the weights. Okay, we're nearly there with prediction time. How do you? I don't want you predicting just yet, but I just want to know what kind of fight you expecting to see. So, first of all,
it's actually really interesting. I think it's going to start as a really technical fight. I think that they're going to be looking at each other, trying to work each other out. I don't think it's going to be like an all-out war. This is going to be about Bam trying to understand what Estrada's bringing to him, and I think Bam's going to get bamboozled initially, potentially.
Bam's going to get bamboozled.
Kids naturally, Steve. Kids were naturally. So I think the first few rounds definitely going to be competitive. I think it's going to be competitive for a good, even up to the halfway mark. It's going to be nip and tuck. But yeah, I just see the youth of Bam coming through at that point. And look, he has stinging punches, and when he's landing, they're going to make a difference. So he's got to work his way through that initial getting used to how Estrada works his way around the ring, and he needs to get past that. I imagine some tough moments of just being outboxed, but then he's got to start relying on his youth. And look, he's a skill boxer. You don't do with Sonny Edwards if you're not. And then he's got that power equalizer as well. So yeah, I think that it could be a bit of a fight of two halves is what.
Two halves. Yes.
Yeah. Actually.
Sure. Okay. Now it's crunch time. Your prediction for the fight?
So it's going to lean on that. I think Estrada will keep it very competitive for 6, maybe 7 rounds, but I think Bam will technical KO or get a stoppage. The referee may step in around the 9th. Is what I'm kind of predicting. I don't think it'll go the full 12. It could do, but I'm going to go for a Bam
late
KO.
stoppage.
Stoppage. Yeah.
Sure. I've been a bit on the fence on this one with my prediction. At 1 minute, I'm thinking, like I said, Estrada, he's technical. I think he can nab it on points. And then my head says, oh, God, I thought the same with maybe against Edwards, and Bam is pretty hot at the moment. So I'm going to go Bam on points. I don't think he'll get that stoppage. I think it's going to be a war, but I think he'll get the nod. That's my prediction anyway. So
I think he's going to go all out, Steve. He'll want to make that statement and be the first. So yeah, no. I think the safer bet is Bam on points. If I was going to bet, some serious money on it,
I'd be very impressed if Bam does get that stoppage. That is making a statement. If you ask me, that'd be a massive statement through the division anyway. So, but. I'm expecting a good fight anyway, based on that.
Absolutely.
Anyway. Moving on to the undercard, and we've got Sonny Edwards is back. He's fighting Adrian Curiel. Hope I pronounced that right. Moving up in weight for this fight. So, do you think British fans really appreciate Sonny Edwards and his boxing skills? I know we touched on it a bit earlier. So, but do you think the UK fans really appreciate him?
Kind of known for his undefeated Twitter record as much as fighting.
Yes, well, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah. His record precedes his boxing, maybe.
X. Let's call it correctly. But absolutely. And I don't think he's appreciated, Steve, honestly. And I think partly that's because of his weight and his size. I think Sonny. Look, the Bam fight was like we said earlier. I mean, I was surprised at the level of the victory for Bam Rodriguez. And this is why I kind of think Bam's going to get to Estrada. He's a special talent, but Sonny is also a special talent. His skill set is phenomenal. This guy can hit you from any stance. He's got incredible reflexes. He can bob and weave. He's entertaining. He's got a lot, and he's a personality. So we should appreciate guys like Sonny Edwards. He's Marmite clearly, but those are the guys we've got to have in boxing. They're going to generate opinion. Hate him. Exactly. Yeah. But no, I think he's really underappreciated. Absolutely.
Sure. Going back to that Bam fight. How much do you think that's taken that out of Sonny, physically and mentally? Obviously, it was his first loss, and you can see his face there. It's a state. So, how much do you think? How he's going to bounce back from that?
Yeah, it's a biggie, Steve, isn't it? Look, he's not first loss is a like I say, his biggest fight. It wasn't just any loss. Like that was, as you said, look at his face. He's ferociously beaten and stopped, really. So it's difficult to tell. I mean, from Sonny's mindset and the way he is and his skills, you think that he'll kind of get over it and want to come back. And he's already spoken about the fact he wants to get to that fight again, and this time he'll change things and come back better. I'd like to think that he, it's a very different opponent, obviously, in terms of who he's facing next to Curiel, which, it's a safer option. He's not a big KO act, clearly. I don't think he's got huge power. So it's probably a good fight for Sonny to come back to build his confidence again, because look, he can outbox 90% of the guys out there, let's face it. We'll see. I really think that some fighters, they can really be impacted by a big loss, because it wasn't like a one-punch KO, Steve. It was like a sustained beating for a number of rounds. And I think that's the bit that you get a bit concerned about with that loss. But hopefully, it's not going to it'll drive him to think about how he can improve.
Yeah, and I'm guessing if anyone can do it, I think Sonny Edwards has got that mental attitude and confidence to bounce back. Mentioned that obviously Curiel, he's Mexican again. No one likes fighting Mexicans, right? Again, and then Sonny's got
no. Yeah.
Do you think that doesn't matter really? So you put who's in front of you, don't you? Really? So you fight who's put in front of you, really?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of comfort in the fact, look, he's not a like someone's going to clearly punch him at one shot. He hasn't got that level of power based on his record, but he knows he's going to be in for a tough night, in the sense that he's not like these Mexican fighters. They come to fight. They come to take your heart. He'll be there. He's not going to back down. But that you think will hopefully play to Sonny's advantage. He'll pick him off. He'll counter him. This is where his skills are. He's on the ropes. He can come in and out of the ropes. He has got skills that not many fighters in the world have, despite that loss to Bam Rodriguez. So I think it's, in a way, it's kind of, although he's, let's face it, it's going to be a tough night, but they didn't want to go in with a big puncher. But that way, you don't get many big punchers. So it's I think it's probably the right call in terms of an opponent.
In the next opponent, yeah. Sonny's fighting away from home again. I think a lot of a few UK fans would be a bit disappointed. Do you think that there is much appeal, for Sonny to fight in the UK now, or do you think he's quite happy fighting away from home now?
I think Eddie hopes so. One day after signing him, and I think Sonny's one of these fighters where you're going to stick him on a big card, and he's going to be a great high level card. But is he going to headline a big sold out arena show? We spoke about him being underappreciated, and unfortunately with the smaller guys, you're not going in there to see KOs. It's quite a rare thing to see. So I think Sonny's fine on the road. I think he's his own person. He's
maybe there's less pressure on him. Sometimes fighting in front of a home crowd, which you got to put that, like I said, put that show on. Fighting away from home,
and he'll probably get a lot more grief coming his way in a sense, because he's a bit of a Marmite character. So I think I actually think that it's probably not the baddest thing. I think away from home, like you say, the pressure is a bit off. He probably can do his own thing. He's not going to be kind of disrupted in his training and his prep as much. So yeah. And I think he's a typical guy who you could put him in any ring. He's not going to overawe him. Let's face it. With whatever crowd.
I think maybe it is a smart move fighting away. After that, like I said, you ain't got the UK fan base, no pressure on him. Hopefully you still get the fans tuning in to see him fight. But maybe it was a smart move, and a smart move keeping his name out there, fighting on the undercard. That's a big profile fight as well. So maybe that is a smart move, isn't it? Really. So
the guy who beat him is heading it up. He puts
exactly.
And the card is back in that conversation again. So and he's not left it too long. The fight wasn't that long ago, so it's good that he's getting back in.
Still fresh. Yeah, and I wonder how many references maybe the zone commentators are going to give to that Sonny Edwards fight as well. I think we're going to see a bit of bingo cards coming up come Saturday night with the references to the Sonny Edwards fight.
Naturally.
If Sonny wins, who would you like to see him fight next?
Well, I think let's see what happens with Bam versus Estrada. I think Sonny want to get back in the ring. He'll want that rematch, and look, that's the biggest fight. And look, they're both with Eddie, so it's not like it's not like there's, and look, as we've seen, Steve, big fights getting made, whatever promotional outfit you're with now, and look with the Saudi cards, and even in the UK, you're seeing promoters talk, working with each other. And Ben Sholman and Eddie were shaking hands the other day. So I think
we see that. Everything this year, haven't we? Really,
everything's happening, which is amazing for us fans. So now I think he'll be looking at that fight quite closely. I think Sonny wants to. This is get back to winning ways, get your confidence back, put on the show, get on to the biggest fight he can do, and the winner of those or the loser of that fight could be the one that he takes on next.
He takes on, maybe. Maybe. I was going to say, bring that fight to the UK, and surely the fans want to see that. Surely, even if it is Estrada, I think the UK fans would tune in for that. Surely, based on what we see on Saturday, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And someone like an Estrada, someone at that sort of tail end their career, like fighting the UK, big, we know everyone love the atmosphere. It's very different sort of, and they'll probably get paid pretty well. So on that basis, why not? I mean,
why not?
We'd love to see it.
I'll say why not. I know you briefly touched on the fight, but how do you see the Sonny Edwards Curiel fight go?
Yeah, I just think Sonny's just gonna pick him off. He's got that level of ability, Steve. I think he will come back and make a statement. I think that if you look at the majority of his fights, they've been pretty much shut out. It's like, how many rounds did he lose? Never mind, like, was he close to losing?
Yeah, he doesn't lose rounds, does he?
Yeah, I think it's one of these things where, let's see the impact of that loss. But he's got that mindset. I like watching him fight, and I love his character. Like he's a character, and it's great. So I really think that he will. He's not going to be going in there and knocking Curiel out. I think this is going to be a 12-round decision with fair ease. I think he will just outbox him. He will take a few rounds to settle in, and you'll be seeing him picking him off, switching, coming off the ropes. You're going to see a typical Sonny experience here, and it's on a great stage for him. He's got to look good doing it, and I think he'll do that. I think he's going to really impress.
Yeah, I was going to ask for your prediction, but you pretty much.
Sorry, I just jumped in.
No, that's good. That's all right. I agree. Sonny Edwards on the cards for me as well, so I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Before you go,
I wouldn't be surprised if it was a shutout, honestly, Steve. It's that level.
Yeah. I think so as well. Before you go, I might always end with a couple of topics we're talking about in recent times. Ryan Garcia, 1-year ban, and that fight against Devin Wilder, no contest. Was that the right decision in the end?
Wow, Steve, we did a preview for that fight. I mean, who would have thought that? There was Devin to win and all that. And obviously, you saw that performance, you couldn't believe it. And then obviously, all this happened afterwards. Absolutely. And the one thing I'll give him credit for is he's taking his punishment. He's not fighting this out, and all the rest of it. He initially made all those claims, but clearly he's come to an agreement. And look, bottom line is, I think it's 3 tests in total. Austrian, there's no way around that. So, yeah, I think that's a fair shout, and Devin shouldn't have that loss on his record. 100%. No. I think that makes complete sense, and you just kind of hope that hopefully this time, if Ryan needs help or whatever it is that's going on with Ryan Garcia, then this is the right time for him to do that.
He should be doing that. Then I saw a clip of him on X today, and he's on the poker table drinking and eating. I don't know, it looks like Chinese food. Yeah, I was thinking, oh my God. Yeah, he's gonna have a hell of a year out, isn't he? Really? So
he's gonna enjoy it. He's not gonna be reflecting on anything. He's gonna, go out, enjoy that stuff, and then come back.
Yeah, sure.
So no.
Sure. I'm talking about taking a year out. Haney already said he's going to take a year out as well. So what do you make of that? Is it just to build maybe the rematch? Let's both take a year out and then mega fight when they both come back?
Yeah, you kind of made this point, didn't it? He's only going to fight at a certain weight, as in increasing weight, and he's he's scarred, isn't he, Steve? Like he's really scarred by that defeat, and I think he's just kind of putting out that sort of dialogue to try and see if someone's going to try and tempt him away from that. I wouldn't be surprised to see him 1 year out. That Garcia fight is the biggest fight probably, because who's not going to want to watch it? Because if they have restrictions in place for hydration, and obviously the testing is going to be above normal, it would be a great fight to see again, because whatever happened, it's clear that Garcia found a way to get to him. But you would think that Haney will have learned a lot from that, and he's going to be confident in that sense that it wasn't a fair judgment, it wasn't a fair fight. So I won't be surprised, but I would like to think that he'll get back. He's too good a talent to have a year out just for the sake of it, Steve. Like, he needs to get back in the ring, get that rust off, and get back to winning ways. Oh, they didn't lose, but to get over that, let's face it, what was it, the time they lost?
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, if they did fight again, they would have no problem selling that fight, would they really? So no problem. There's so many factors. Yeah.
Too many stories, and who knows what Ryan Garcia's antics is going to be in the build up to that. I mean, that in itself is going to sell. So no.
Yeah,
it's definitely payday for Bill.
100%. Yeah, no problem on that. Also, hopefully announced this week, we're going to see AJ versus Triple D at Wembley. Are you going, Amit?
You know what, Steve? I think it'll be a big bill on it. Let's face it. It's going to be a Saudi show. There's going to be some big fights. We've heard rumors about the undercard, and there's some huge fights. Obviously, Eubank Jr., Shearer, and I think Wardley Clark and others. I think it's definitely one that I've got to try and make. But that's an intriguing main bout if that happens. I mean, I came out straight away and I'd seen that Dubois win, and kind of put it out there very quickly, Steve. For me, I think AJ may take him very, very quickly. So I think that in itself will be a great thing to see. But I think the unpredictability of Dubois at the moment, you don't know which one's going to turn up.
You don't know what you're going to get. Yeah.
Now I've to make the effort, Steve. I have to make the effort and put some photos of my ring seat out for you.
Okay, that'd be good. I think even Rob, Boxing Shrew, quoted today, we may even have Liam Gallagher on music as well. So
Oasis reunion is what I've been hearing, Steve. Like, Saudi was going to make it happen.
Is there anything that Turki Al-Sheikh can't do? He's going to get Oasis back together again. So the man.
If Oasis is there, Steve, I'm there 100%.
That's it. Well, hopefully, obviously that'll be announced. Not the Oasis reunion, but maybe the AJ fight this week anyway. So, but that's it. Again, thank you, Amit, for your time. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Support the channel best you can, obviously, with likes, subscription, and comments as well. And obviously, enjoy the fights on Saturday.
Cheers, all.
Thanks, Amit.
Thanks, Steve. Steve Talk.